So the first thing I've done is I've got a canvas. This is a canvas left over from another student and from a previous year. So I'm just showing you how this paint can cover very well so you can always reuse a canvas. All right, step one, always write your name, because the first step of this painting, our paintings are all going to look very similar. So please go ahead and do that absolutely first thing. The next thing I've done is I've went ahead and got some paint. I'm just starting with 3 colors, mostly white, and then just a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, and a little bit of purple. And by just a little bit, I mean a tiny little dab, because you really won't be using much. I've also got some water, and I've got a big paintbrush, and I put some newspaper underneath to help clean up the mess at the end. Also some coffee, but that's not required, just seems to help me. Okay, I'm going to start with a lot of white. You can pull a little bit of that white over in an area all by itself. Okay, and now I'm just going to dab into the blue. Now I'm not going to mix this. I'm just going to get a messy amount of different colors on there. As you can see, we've got a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. It's all just kind of mixed together. And then I'm going to start going in just a vertical and horizontal motion only. Kind of ran out of paint quickly there. When you have a canvas like this that has a painting on the back, it just means that it's going to require a little bit more paint to cover it, and that's fine. If you're having a hard time covering it too, one thing you can do is take white paint and go over it first entirely, and then you have a fresh new canvas to start with. You can do that with gesso if you have it, but at this point we do not. You want to make sure that you get the edges of your painting, especially this one, because the edges are orange, and we want to make sure that's covered up so that it's not going to stick out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch colors, and as you can see, I did not wash off my brush. I'm just going to make these colors kind of blend together a little bit and just kind of come out as they will. I'm going to put more green in there so it's a little bit. Again, I'm just randomly doing vertical strokes and horizontal strokes. And I'm not mixing on my palette. I'm just picking up paint and adding it directly to the canvas. I want this really rough, really expressive. We are going to start the second part of our painting, so I've went ahead and I've let this dry, and now we're going to start our branch and our cherry tree flowers and buds. So the first thing that I've done is I've changed my paint. You're going to need some white, some brown, some red, and just a tad of black. I might have gotten a little too much. And 2 types of brushes. I got a flat brush and a round brush just in case. And it's nice to change brushes throughout your painting so you can get different line variation and different shapes and sizes of things. It makes a more interesting painting. So I'll start with the branch. And I do always encourage you to not use the paint directly out of the tube or the bottle. I want you to play around with your own colors. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some brown and adding just a little bit of black to that to darken that up. I'm going to darken it up a little bit more. So it's a nice dark brown bark color. And I'm going to start over off one edge of the painting and just create a nice organic thick branch. all the way across. Now you can see I didn't quite get enough paint on there. You don't want to go directly from corner to corner. You want to keep it where it looks nice and organic and natural. So I'm going to have to go over that branch a few more times to make sure that it's covered and it doesn't have that choppy feeling to it. And I'm just really adding paint. I'm not really mixing it up. Much. I like my paintings to have kind of a nice handmade quality to them, so I like to see the brush strokes in there, and I like to see different colors of paint. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just create some branches coming off of that. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to just twirl the brush in my fingertips as I'm painting, especially when I'm doing branches and such, and that will create a more organic line. I'm going to go ahead and switch brushes now to a smaller brush so I can create some smaller details. As you can see, I'm just kind of twirling that brush. All right, now I want to remind you how a lot of times branches are going to overlap one another, and sometimes we forget about that as we're drawing them. It's kind of nice to organize them a little bit better, but if you look at a tree, there's going to be lots of branches that go over one another. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there on that because I don't want to overdo it. Good artist knows when to quit. And now I just want to add a little bit of highlight. So I'm going to take my white, okay, and add just a little bit of that brown to that white. It's kind of a light brown. And I'm going to say the light's coming from this direction. So I'm just going to give my tree a little bit of highlight. And it can be very inconsistent. It doesn't have to be a heavy white stripe. So you can see how that's broken up just a little bit. I just want to add a little bit of highlights here and there. And you want to do this while the paint is still wet. So it all just kind of fades into each other. I'm feeling like I need another tree branch down here. That's just one coming from the distance. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start our flowers, our blossoms and our buds. And I want to talk about the fact that when we make our flowers, a lot of times we were taught way back in the day that this is the way that you make a flower. When in all reality, they're very irregular, and the leaves and the curves and the shapes are very natural, and they're not this perfect symmetrical shape. So we're going to try to create that. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and we will come back to it in just a minute. Okay, the next step is to go in and add our flowers. So I've let this dry. To be honest, this isn't my favorite composition I've ever done, but it's really hard to make a video and also paint because you're thinking about too many things. So I encourage you guys to get in your meditative place and get in your quiet place where you can really focus on what you're doing. Put your cell phone away, tune out your friends around you, and really focus on your art so that you can make a good piece. I'm going to start with white, and we're going to use a lot of this. And I have my smaller round brush at this point, and we're going to make those irregular flowers that I was talking about. So I'm going to start, and we're going to put the first one wherever you feel it works best. And remember to make those shapes very irregular. We're going to make individual petals, but they're all going to have their own personality to them. And I like to not make them a perfect starburst every single time because you don't see flowers straight on every single time. And I'm really trying to layer on that paint so it really grabs your attention. And just pick a few. Don't overdo it on the flowers. You don't want to cover up your branches completely. going to also put some buds in there because this is a nice cherry tree and there's a lot happening. Even those buds are just a little irregular feeling. They have a nice organic shape to them. I always like to have a couple things going off the edge. It almost feels like it's just a photograph that's been snapped, and there are some flowers on the sides. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. All right, the next thing that you're going to do is take your red. You really don't need much because a little red goes a long way. Take some of your white. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some of those pink touches to the flowers. So you're going to start with your white, create a little blob in one area, and then add just a teeny bit of red. Just a little bit. We don't want to overdo it on the red. We want just a really light pink. Now my flowers aren't dry yet, which is the best way to work. But if you want to let them dry, or if that's just what happened, that's fine too. So I'm going around the edges of each one of those petals, and I'm just adding in just a little bit of pink and letting it naturally blend with that white. Again, you don't want to overdo it on the pink. Or maybe you do, I don't know. And as you can see, sometimes the painting has what some might call a little bit of a messy feel to it. And I like that look. I like how it's a little bit hazy. It has kind of that artist hand look to it. But some people, that's not their style. So as you grow as a painter and an artist, you will develop your own style, and that is good. Okay. I'm going to make a little bit of a center to these flowers. I'm going to take some more of that red and add it to my pink. I'm not going to mix it all the way. As you can see, it's still fairly messy. And then just a little bit of brown, just to give a hint of another color in there. So I've got just a bit of paint on the end of my brush, and I'm just going to give it just a few dots. Nothing calculated or precise. Just a few kind of weird shapes right in the middle. That one's not going to have one. And really, that's the only two that I'm going to see the middle on. Okay? So that is our cherry blossom painting. Just to be sure that I cover this, I did use a YouTube video as inspiration from this woman right here, her art from the attic at blogspot.com, and I just took it and kind of changed it so it worked best for my students. So thank you for that, and thank you for watching.